Right, so I was watching a show yesterday on Netflix called Designated Survivor, and it's a pretty political show. And it was the last episode, season three. I won't get too much into it, but like I said, last episode, season three. And they're in right at the end of a presidential campaign. I think it was a day or two before the election, and a video comes out, like a secretly filmed video of the Republican campaign, and it's the leader talking about how in, I think it was 2045 or 2050, that if immigration levels stay at the levels they are now, whites are going to be a minority in the U.S. Which I know at some point, if immigration stay the way they are, whites are going to be a minority in the U.S. and Canada too, but probably faster in the U.S. And the show made it seem like it was like the biggest political scandal of all time. That it's these horrible, horrible racists, and they were ahead, I believe, in the campaign, and they ended up losing because of this video. And another thing too that was somewhat related, somewhat unrelated, but um, yeah, like they made it seem like it was like this horrible, horrible thing. That how can you possibly be against this? But so what I wanted to get into today is basically showing that being against the levels of immigration that we're currently on is not an extremist position by any way, in any way, shape, or form. And I'm going to make the argument that it's actually the opposite. But anyways, this is polling from Canada, from the Angus Reid Institute that analyzes polling data on immigration back to 1975. Um, as you can see kind of at the bottom of the screen here, this polling data, and it polls Canadians. Um, they ask them, do you think it increase, stay the same, decrease, or not sure? And the basic tenet that you can get at here is in 2018, the least amount of Canadians that have ever um, wanted more immigration, and the most Canadians in this entire time of polling wanted to decrease the levels. So the one thing that I would point out, the only thing you need to point out to debunk this idea that not wanting mass immigration and not wanting your population to be replaced is racist, is to point out that how in the world can you possibly consider something racist when probably, I don't know what the math would be off the top of my head there, but 90 to 95% of people polled agree with you. Like how can it possibly be racist to hold a position that 90% of the population shares? Like it makes absolutely no sense. And just based off that fact, a lot of people are going to be wondering, well, why do they call you racist then if it's something that's absolutely insane to do? Well, the real reason is that they want mass immigration because immigrants from the third world, overwhelmingly, probably 75, 80% of the time, in polls, give or take a little bit, but it's still the overwhelming majority. They vote for the left, and not only that, they're more inclined to vote for the far left than a typical immigrant from a Northern European or Asian country per se. And so they want it because the left is having a lot of trouble winning elections lately. If you look in all the provincial elections in Canada, all the European elections that have happened recently. In fact, I can't think of an election that's a major election that's happened recently where a leftist party has won. There probably is one, but I honestly can't think of one. Um, and the reason why the left wants to do this is because they're having a lot of trouble winning elections. So all they're going to do is they're going to shift the demographics from whatever it is now to make it a lot more, to have a lot higher percentage of the population, people who are inclined to vote for them, which is going to make it easier for them to win elections. Not only that, people from the third world tend to have more kids, which means that's just more and more, like they're getting more voters in the here and now with the mass immigration, and they're getting more voters in the future with the fact that they're going to have more kids. Not only that, the immigrants are generally a drain on society on average. They're net negatives. Immigrants from the third world are about, I think, a little over twice as likely to be on welfare as a general citizen in the U.S. So the more immigrants we keep bringing in, the more the existing population um, is going to have to contribute, which means that's less and less money in their pocket, which means it's less and less likely for them to be able to reproduce. And then not only that, the money is going to get transferred to the newly immigrants that have brought in, and it's just going to make them more and more likely to be able to reproduce because they've came from a country where they're making a tenth of the money they're getting in the U.S., and then all of a sudden they're getting 10 times more, which means let's have more kids because we got more money. So basically, yeah, summing it up, you can't possibly claim that someone has a radical position if it's held by like 90% of the people that have an opinion on the topic. That's absolutely insane. So what I would point out is that it's really the left that is the insane ones, because they're I guess the other thing that I wanted to point out isn't that, it's that it's really the left that wants to take advantage of the people's race. It's not the right. The right just doesn't want them because it's not fair and we don't have the infrastructure to bring in this amount of people. We don't even have the infrastructure or the money to care for the people we currently have. How in the world are we going to care for another, I know the Trudeau government wants to raise it to, I think, 350 or 400,000 or some, it's currently at 250, but they want to raise it another 100 or 150, and we don't even have the infrastructure or the money to support the current amount we have. So it's actually the left that has the extremist position, and it's for the simple fact that they accuse the right of not wanting people because of their race. Well, they just want them because of their race. They accuse the right that, hey, you guys just don't want them. In essence, what they should be saying, if they're gonna at least come off as somewhat plausible, they should be saying, and I would be fine if they said it this way, is that you just don't want them because they're less inclined to vote for you. But the problem with saying it that way is that you would have to say, well, you just want them because they're more inclined to vote for you. And the other thing about that too is they would be being honest about their intention, which they can't do. And the other thing that really bothers me about this topic is that a lot of conservatives and people who aren't on the left basically are really afraid to talk about this. And being afraid isn't going to make the problem better, because the problem's only getting worse, and the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. Basically, it's a very simple thing. So I just wanted to make this video on that. I know it's a pretty trendy topic now, and I seen it in that TV show yesterday too, and it just really got to me. So I wanted to make a video about it. But like I said, if anything, it's the people who want the more immigration that are the extremists. Because again, 6% of Canadians want the immigration to be at the level that the Trudeau government wants it to be at, want it to be at the level that I think almost every Democrat wants it to be at. And the other thing too that I would point out too, at least as far as American immigration goes, is that it's not really relevant to Canada, but if you're a proponent of open borders in the U.S., which I believe almost every Democrat is nowadays, I mean, you look at the Democratic debates, maybe one or two of the people they had in the Democratic debates would be against open borders. Maybe one or two, if that. They might all be for it. If you're for that, then you are complicit in the fact that the majority of women and children that cross the border are sexually assaulted, they're abused, they're robbed. You have that blood on your hands, because one of the big tenets of the opposite view is that we want to do everything in our power to de-incentivize people from coming across the border illegally. Most of the people who are against the Democrats on immigration, they still want legal immigration. They just want it to be less than what it is now. And if you just stopped the illegal immigration and kept legal, that was comparable to what it is now, then that would be enough. But like I said, if you're for open borders, then you have that blood on your hands. Um, and the last thing that I wanted to point out too is that um, people talk about compassion for all this kind of stuff, and I do think that we need some compassion, but crossing a border illegally is a crime. Okay, it's illegal, and this idea that's going on now is about the detention centers for the illegal immigrants on the southern border is this horribly immoral system, and that we shouldn't be separating parents from their children. It's not an argument, because those people have broke the law, and when you broke the law, you get separated from your kids. If I if a parent robs a bank, they don't get to bring their kids to jail with them and have this cozy, comforty little jail cell with their kids and all that stuff. That's not how it works. You don't get to keep the fruits of a crime. If you rob a bank and you give your kids the money, and you get caught, the kids don't get to keep the money. That's not how it works. But the left argues for illegal immigration, that if you break the law, that you should get to keep the fruits of a crime. You cross the border illegally, should get to become a legal resident or even a citizen most of the time. Then that's the exact opposite of the way we run our legal system, and it creates, even if you think you're morally right, you're still creating the wrong intentions, and you're creating all the wrong incentives basically for the people to follow the law. And the other thing too is that if you're okay with people who break your own laws coming into your country, then what they're saying is that they don't respect your laws, they don't respect the way you run your society, which means if they don't respect it in one aspect, they're going to be more likely to not respect it in other aspects, which is shown through the idea that illegals are more likely to commit crimes, they're more likely to, commit crimes is all you really need, so, that's a lot of stuff to absorb in a short amount of time, but like I said, take-home story is anyone trying to call you an extremist for not wanting more immigration, or even wanting it staying the same as what it was going into the Trudeau administration, or 5-10 years ago in the U.S., for example. All you got to do is just point to this data. You got to tell these people that you're in the camp of 6% of people. The other 90% of people of the 100% of people that responded, I think it was 14, are not sure. Another thing too that I would point out, just to kind of cap this video off, is that everything you hear in the media, everything that's promoted on social media, everything you hear in public schools, in colleges, is all pro-immigrant. It's all pro-immigration propaganda, that these are just helpless people that have no agency whatsoever, and that we need to help them. Imagine if the media was honest about this stuff. I would bet money that number would be 2 or 3% probably. I bet you maybe even lower. But it would definitely be lower, because the media is totally biased. Even a lot of the right-wing media. Like I know of a lot of people who are like moderate right-wing who aren't even overly skeptical of this stuff. I don't even know. I don't even think Fox News is like, people point out that whenever you say that the media is biased, they're like, "Oh, what about Fox News?" Well, Fox News is one out of a handful of cable channels in the U.S. Canada has no right-wing cable channels. I mean, CBC is far left. CTV and Global are both left and sometimes far left, depending on who you're watching. So, yeah, like the Canadian, I think you can make maybe somewhat of an argument that I still think you're wrong that the American media isn't totally biased to the left, which on average it is, but the Canadian media, we don't have anything even remotely close to even a moderate right-wing or left-wing position. It's all far left. Not only that, the Trudeau government is giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the CBC and CTV and Global and all these media outlets that are totally biased for them. So, like I said, I'm thinking of too many things to support my argument for this, so I'm going to cap it off here. But if you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.